welcome back to the Lifeboat Live with me, Absolutely Arian, and I am excited to get into the topic today with our special guest who I'll be introducing to you shortly. But before I bring him to the stage, I would love for you guys to just hit me up in the comments. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from, and also, just kind of make sure that you tag your friends, hit share, send up some hearts, some likes, some thumbs. I would love for your participation. Go ahead and let me know what you're thinking as we go along. I love to hear from you. And if you are now watching on the replay, well, welcome. We're no longer here, but I will always come back and read your comments as well. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you hit subscribe, and so that you get the notifications every time we go live. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, especially if you are watching on Facebook. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is the Lifeboat with Absolutely Arian, and you can also, just get the updates on there as well. So welcome back. Tonight we are talking about a time where people can be the most vulnerable and sensitive in their life when they are grieving. And sometimes people can get real creative in the ways that they choose to comfort you. And sometimes it's not at all what you need. Hence the topic tonight: what not to say to those who are grieving. And I have with me tonight a special guest who is someone who, can relate on this topic, who we have been in platforms where we have talked about this topic. And I'm excited for him to come now and share his perspective here on the Lifeboat Live. So please welcome none other than Jalen A. Jett to the stage. Hey, Jalen.
What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. How you doing? What's up, family? I see y'all.
Yeah, so I'm doing great, and I'm excited to have you on here tonight because we have had, a similar discussion, or I should say, on the topic of grief on Clubhouse. And that's actually the first time. I think that's how we met, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know anymore, but and so we had a great discussion on grief that you initiated and facilitated, and it was fantastic. And I've just kind of been seeing people around me, whether it be through social media, the social media community, or just people I know who have been losing, loved ones. And especially in these last couple of years with COVID and everything that was going on, so many people were, leaving us, and so many people that we know were losing people, and have experienced some outlandish, crazy, wild things that people have said to them in their grieving process, especially early on in the grieving process. And so I think sometimes people just don't know what to say. I feel like trying to comfort someone that is going through something that, especially that you have never experienced, maybe can be awkward. And sometimes you just don't even know what to say or how to have the right things to say. And sometimes the best thing to do is just, if you don't have anything that you can think of, is to just not say anything at all. Just
be present.
Sorry for your loss. Be present and be a helping hand whenever they may need your help, as opposed to coming up with something creative to say that is just very futile and sometimes even damaging, right? So in your experience, Jalen, I know that you have experienced grief and loss that's been like really close to you as well. And so what did you find in the time of your grieving that people said that just was really not helpful to you?
Yeah. I just want to say thank you for having me on. This is definitely a good topic. I feel like, especially as we approach the holidays, in that time, people are grieving about various things, whether that's, grieving the loss of a loved one. Maybe they have a job and they're seasonal, and are expecting to lose a job, and they kind of carry that weight, grieving or maybe around this time a friendship ended and you're grieving losing that friend, whatever it is. I think everybody has found themselves grieving about something.
Right.
But to kind of give a little bit of context to what I'm about to say, in 2018, I lost my mother in the most crazy way. And it really, 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 of course, when you go through something dramatic and traumatic like that, it definitely like shakes you to your core, and you really don't know how to process those emotions. Especially if you lose somebody really, really, really close to you,
Right. Right.
like a mother or a father or a grandmother, father, whatever. And navigating that season was the most difficult thing I've ever done. So not only grieving the loss of my mother during that time, but also um, having a great support system, right? Um, and really people wanting to reach out and be helpful and really be present in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated everybody who reached out and wanted to be involved and kind of help with that grieving process. But of course, there were some people who really just added another weight for me to carry, and it was really, really, really something that, again, like I've never been through. And I would say for me, one of the biggest things that really kind of set me back a little bit mentally was just like, I know how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even though people, watching now, that may seem like, well, what else am I supposed to say? Like you hit on earlier, some people just want you to be present, when they're grieving like that. And a lot of times for me, losing a mother like that, losing my mother like that was like something eye opening, going through various emotions because you never have experienced something like that before.
Yeah.
Then not only that, but having to hurry up and trying to, plan a service and
Yeah.
doing things financially and making things work. Sometimes you don't even have time to properly grieve. And, again, just navigating those seasons when, when you are grieving and somebody says, I know how you feel, it almost like frustrates you a little bit because it almost like minimizes the experience that you're having.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I've never experienced that before. And for you to say, hey, like, pat me on the back, I know how you feel. That's something that even though um, you mean well, I did, people don't receive it. Or for me personally, I really didn't receive it very well because how can you know how I felt unless you've experienced that? And some people who, have helped me during that grieving process, they have lost mothers and I was able to glean from them. But
Yeah.
some people who have never been down that road that I know personally says I know how you feel. It almost hurts a little bit again because you kind of minimize the experience.
Right. Right.
And
100%. Because, and like, not to cut you, but I remember like when a really good friend of mine lost his mother, like, so I lost my mother in 2020, the March of 2020.
mhm,
As as we kind of have talked about it a bit. And I think 2 years prior to that, one of my good friends lost his mom. And
yeah,
I couldn't possibly understand. Like, I remember just the thought of losing my mother, like, made me emotional and it made me sad. And it was one of those things where just the thought of it would be like, ugh, and I would have to shake it off and not think about it, right? Because
yeah,
just the thought of it would bring me so much pain, you know? Um, and so when he was going through it, I thought to myself, ooh, I really couldn't imagine what that feels like. And it wasn't until I lost my mother and like that gut punching, like world shifting
yeah,
feeling where it's like it's such an unsettling, it almost feels like an earthquake has just knocked down your whole world.
yeah,
Um, it was not until that moment that I said, oh my gosh, this is most likely what he was feeling. You know what I mean? And I felt bad for him, but I couldn't relate all the way because my mom was still here at that time. you know?
Yeah.
But even in that, I have discovered that um when other people have lost, even if you have had, like you were talking about, like, oh, you could receive it more from people who had lost a mother, you know what I mean? And so could I, to a certain extent, you know what I mean? But also at the same time, I think I've made the mistake of being a little presumptuous in the sense of other people who have lost their mothers after I have lost mine. I have said to them, like, man, I know how you feel. And although I may have received it when people who had lost their mother had said that to me, I think it can be presumptuous to even say that to other people, because you don't know necessarily the dynamics of the relationship that they had with their mother. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you don't know what that may have looked like to them. You don't know whether they were close with their mother, if they weren't close with their mother, if they had, if they had been estranged from their mother. And so that grieving process would look much more different than what my grieving process would have looked like, because I had a close relationship with my mom. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, and some people may have different dynamics, and so it can be presumptuous to even think that you can tell someone that you know what their experience looks like, when you don't even know what the relationship was like.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, like I think a lot of people when they say that, they're coming or speaking from a perspective of I can relate to the experience and losing somebody in
Yeah.
that moment. But what that also can do is, subconsciously put your opinions and how you feel about that on top of the situation.
Right.
Um, and again, when people are in that moment and processing how to get through that, that's an additional weight that we have to, whoever is going through that in that moment also have to bear that too.
Right.
And like I said, sometimes um, people want to help and people want to, really like be a part. And I do feel like a part of that is a good trait and good quality to have, that you want to be inclusive and you want to, make sure because you care, right?
Mhm.
But there's a thin line between, like being supportive and then subconsciously putting your opinions on that person and kind of directing the narrative of how they should navigate through that. that
Correct.
that that's tough to do.
Correct. Correct. I completely agree with that. It is so, like, grief is just a personalized thing. It's not a one size fits all. We all are grieving differently. We all have different experiences, and
Hmm.
to put it in a box would be just irresponsible. You know, but Jalen, I realize that I've made a huge mistake here, and I want to rewind back a little bit, because I wanted you to kind of introduce, like, I can't be presumptuous in assuming that my audience even knows, who you are, and I want them to know who you are. And I forgot to ask you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about who you are. I know it's a bit of a blunt little cut there, but can you just tell us a little bit about who you are before we continue on with this?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I'm an average Joe, average guy who loves God, but um, born and raised in, Camden, New Jersey, moved down to North Carolina. So right now, I'm close to the Raleigh area, Raleigh Durham area. Um, love God, love ministry, love helping people. Um, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of our testimony. So, however I can, share and help people from my life, pour into them and help them out. I'm all for that. I'm an author. You know, I feel like God has kind of gifted me in, different areas and has blessed me tremendously to kind of again help people and share my testimony. And um, I'm not important at all. Okay, no, I'm not important at all. But I just love connecting with people. Like you said, man, you connected over Clubhouse. Again, sharing experiences and I've kind of built our relationship from there,
Yeah.
getting to know each other. And I'm just, excited that, you thought enough to, have me on the
Bless,
lifeboat.
bless you,
Look,
sir.
if y'all have not shared this video, make sure you share it.
This will be a good time to share because we're about to get into it and really
Exactly.
go into, this topic, which I think is, as Jalen forementioned, is just really important as people are getting closer to the holiday seasons and just still navigating the losses or the anniversaries of the losses of people that they loved. So thank you so much for introducing yourself. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
accepting the invitation, and I'm really glad for the connect that we've made. It's been great. So yes. So okay, back now into the topic.
All
Um,
right.
yeah. So um, we talked a little bit about just how to approach things. Uh, what would you say are the craziest things that you've heard while you were grieving that you just really did not appreciate, or you thought like, wow, like too soon?
Yeah. So crazy thing. I actually had somebody mention to me about um, my mother owed them some money. In the process of me grieving about losing her, and I would never name drop, but it's something that has really stuck with me
Yeah.
forever. That somebody can kind of be that disconnected um, from wanting what's best for me in that moment, but also being selfish enough to say like this moment is not big enough than what I need out of this situation.
Right.
And sometimes that stuff hurts, especially when it comes from people who are kind of in your inner circle,
Right.
was by somebody who was in my inner circle, and just again, when people are insensitive about that, it adds again another weight in carrying that. And that's something again, like I said, I will never forget. And it just kind of shows how selfish people can be in those moments, um, trying to do the right thing. And I think sometimes when you're talking to somebody who's dealing with a loss, like I said, whether it's a loss of a friend, of a loved one, of a pet, of a job, or whatever, grief can kind of show up in all of those kind of areas.
Yeah.
Uh, understand that that moment and you being present with that person, number one, means a lot,
Right.
right? I'm the type of person I love quality time, right? And the fact that like, okay, you stopped what you were doing. People took off of work. People traveled, right, to be with me and my family in that moment. That's
Hmm.
that I really, really, really respect because you had me on your mind in that moment. Um,
Right.
but then to flip it and make it about you in that situation, again, is something that um, from one perspective, you may feel like you're doing that person a service, and you're trying to be the best friend, whatever, in that moment. Sometimes that come across as really um really, really, really selfish. So that's the craziest thing that's happened to me. I know you probably got one or two moments that you can kind of share about too.
Yeah, that's wild. And I've experienced something like that as well. And it's just like, you already have, maybe the credit card company, or, whatever else, whatever outstanding bills were left over to that people are going to be hounding you for. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just so incredible that you would think that, especially the people who are the closest to you, um, that would, if anything, should be offering a helping hand, are now like acting just as bad or worse than the bill collectors. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And but yeah. So I know all about that as well. But I think one of the wildest things where I I was just so numb that I didn't even realize what was happening in the in the moment till
Hmm.
afterward. But I think it was like a couple of days after my mother had just passed, like just a few days. I don't even think a whole week had gone by.
mm,
And somebody who was well acquainted with my mother, not with me necessarily, but with my mother,
mm,
um, called me. They must have got the news about her passing from someone else, um, and they got my phone number and called me,
mm.
and they said to me, "How come you didn't call me to let me know that your mother passed away?" Like, you could have called me and told me. And I just kind of was like,
How does that even sound?
right,
Yeah.
right. And I
Mhm,
just kind of, and in the moment, because I was just so, I was numb and literally just going through the motions because, I also lost my mom in a very wild way. It wasn't expected at all.
mhm.
She wasn't, like terminally ill or anything like that. So, so I was just kind of going through the motions and I didn't even process what they said to me. And I think I might have even apologized and just kind of and kept it moving. It wasn't until maybe hours later or maybe even days later that I was just like, wait, what? What happened there? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I still can't believe it till this day how entitled that person felt. It's like you got the news, somebody told you because somebody in the community who knows got to you, and instead of your initial answer or your initial response to it being, "How can I help?" It was, "Why did I have to hear it basically through the grapevine and not from you?"
yeah,
When I hadn't even called, I think I only called my very inner circle. The only people I think I personally told was my father and like my two best friends.
mhm.
Everyone else found out through, you know, my
Very yeah,
right. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And eventually when it was maybe posted up for like the funeral arrangements and all that stuff. But yeah, it was wild,
yeah,
it was a wild that was a wild moment. And I thought to myself, wow, how insensitive, how crazy of a thing to say to someone, especially the daughter of, like the child of that person who is
yeah,
probably has a million things on their mind before thinking that I need to let you know what's going
yeah.
on, you know?
Of course. And in that moment, again, like that kind of shows how people can, make moments about them,
Right.
and that kind of speaks like to the fact, like I was saying earlier, that like okay, they make themselves bigger than your experience,
Right.
and that's something that if you really really care and love that person, that's something that you should never do. And the fact that why didn't you call me, like,
To tell me.
you know, and I don't know y'all exact relationship, but if y'all really close, if that was like your best friend and your mother, not only are you grieving the fact that you lost her in that way, but you also grieving the fact that, like, okay, I lost a friend too. I
Mhm.
lost a supporter. I lost a ride or die, you
Mhm.
know, and on top of that, she was also my mother and
Right.
birthed me, you know,
Mhm.
and people can kind of prove themselves to be disingenuous and all these different kind of messed up quality traits, and people are crazy.
Well, they say that like the crazy comes out of people when in like at funeral was it at funerals and weddings or
Yeah,
something? You know what I
yeah,
mean? And like, yeah, you really just kind of saw like the wild things come out in people that
yeah,
you really didn't expect. There were things that people who were quite close to me said to me that I thought to myself, no, there's no way. I never would have imagined that you would do something like this in this time of my life, or that you would, take advantage of this vulnerable moment, you know, to
yeah,
for your own personal gain. That is, but there are going to be malicious people, but I think for the most part, not everyone is like that. Those are anomalies, right? I think what is the wildest part that sometimes is it's not even intentional are the little things that people say that, you're just like, wait, that is not it, things like, well, don't worry about it. She lived a long life,
Yeah.
or uh, don't worry about it. She's in a better place, or he's in a better place. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, um, there's a reason for everything. So, I remember one time I have a friend, a church sister, matter of fact, who lost a child born and lived just a few days. And
Yeah.
somebody called her and told her, like, don't worry, you can have another one.
Nah. No. That's not it.
Oh, right? Don't worry, you can have another one.
That's not it.
Whoa. That is
Mhm.
wild. I think I heard even, I don't know if you know Miss Jennifer Trotter. She does a lot on Clubhouse and stuff. She's
Okay.
one of my YLC alum sisters, and like she made a post the other day just about the wild things that people were saying to her, and like, she recently lost her mom as well, and people said to her something along the lines of that her, like, don't be surprised if your dad remarries real soon, or don't be surprised if your dad goes right behind her real soon. And like, what? That is
Yeah.
some crazy, 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 crazy things that people think that they're saying. They think they're saying something good, and that's actually
Yeah. And I'm convinced that a lot of times when people say these inconsiderate things, it's because they feel the need to speak up in those moments, right? I don't want this to be a bash, such and such. You said this about,
right,
whatever. Look, um, but there are a lot of people who, really supported and really, stood by you and us and all those different kind of things. So we
100%.
celebrate that, right? That's, you can attest to that. Like, there's probably some people that you've kind of grown closer to, and after experiencing those moments with. That's cool.
Absolutely, yeah,
But if you don't know what to say, shut up.
really,
Not like it's not hard, right?
or
Like,
literally just say that. I honestly don't know what to say.
look, I had one of my friends was like, "Look, man, I don't know how you feel. I don't know what's going on with you, but bro, I'm here if you need to talk." Right? Like, I can't give you advice because I have both of my parents, but look, I'm with you.
Yeah,
And literally, his wife, and his kids just came over and watched the football game, watched TV shows, watched movies, ordered food, whatever, and I was like, okay, like, this person was present in that moment. And
yeah,
those are the kind of things that, when people grieve, um, about a variety of things, I think a lot of people just want you to be present, and you don't have to say anything if you don't know what to say.
correct.
So I feel like that kind of freed somebody who, who may watch this, who's watching it now or watch it later. Like, look, who are you to have the answers to everything,
Right,
right? If you never experienced that before, be a great friend. Just be supportive if you can. Be a good leader. Whether are consulting somebody in ministry, whatever the case is, like, just be present. Some
right,
people need you to be present, and I think you being present in those moments says a lot, just about your character. Like I said, a lot of people, including myself, that's really high on my list.
right.
That quality time. And if you don't know what to say, it's okay. You know, like, if you don't know what to say in that moment, chill out. Just be present. Be there.
And I think that helped me a lot too, especially in the beginning, in the first couple of days, is like just having people come well, not just anybody, but those who were closest to me, just come and hang out at the house with me and just be there. And like my closest friends and my aunties and stuff like that, they came to the house and like would be here up until wee hours in the morning, just kicking it,
Exactly.
like ordering food, like sitting around trying to figure out, while trying to plan, you know, the 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 ceremony. We weren't able to have a funeral because it was at the beginning of COVID, so everything was canceled at that point. But like just trying to figure out, like, how, like, making phone calls to people or figuring out what funeral arrangements we could have, and all that stuff we kind of did together. And it just felt good to have just a support system and just people there who knew, or maybe not knew exactly how you felt, but just could feel the loss with you and grieve with
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was just like enough. I didn't need anyone to continually be, you know coddling me, or holding me. I didn't need all of that in the moment, all the time, all day, all night. It wasn't a crying all day, all night. Sometimes we just laughed about things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, but I just needed the energy of people around me who just were like about me and for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was enough. You didn't have to say anything else.
Yeah.
We could laugh. And so that really helped, especially in the first few days. Um, I think, you know, just reaching out and maybe even offering to be there, just letting me know that you are there if I do need. Because some people will say, oh, call me if you want to speak. And no, I don't necessarily. I love you, but I don't necessarily want to speak to you about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Of
But just
course.
the fact that you offered it to me, it's just nice. It's just
Yeah.
nice to know that you care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, that's a wonderful way to just kind of reach out and let people know that you're there for them without being overly intrusive.
Yeah, definitely. In a world where people are selfish, especially in America, right? Um, some
People
selfish
selfish,
people. Look, you're right. You're in Canada, right?
right? People selfish up
So
here too.
you know, people can, like I said, people can be so selfish, um, to where it really kind of works against them, in those moments. And we celebrate everybody who are the ride or dies who just come over. And look, her name is Miss Shirley Bullock. She was at my church at the time, and she's like, look, she's really old Southern lady. She's like, look, honey, I don't know how you feel right now because I haven't had loss like this, but you know what? I work right up the street, and every single day she would bring us dinner.
Mm,
And she was, like just simple things like that. Look,
yeah.
it was chicken on top of chicken, on top of chicken, on top of chicken,
Right. Right.
right? But just something like that. Like I got tired of eating chicken,
Yeah.
but I'm just like, in those moments, like, okay, you took a step back and you realize that this moment isn't about you, that you can be small in this moment,
Yeah.
uh, and help me in this enormous emotional roller coaster that I'm dealing with. So
Right.
everybody who's like a Miss Shirley Bullock, who's just there, who's just present, who's just trying to make yourself available, we celebrate you on today because y'all the real.
Absolutely. And I want to, like, big shout out too to all those who, dropped by. And, I had some great experiences where people dropped by and, like, I had so many casseroles. I had lasagna, I had I had
Yeah,
shepherd's pie. I had a variety. I didn't just have chicken.
yeah, I needed that.
Right. I had variety. But I had
Yeah,
people dropping by, like dropping food off. I even had people come by and just put cash in my hand and, like, and just be like, hey, like, just want to help you with whatever you might be having to do for the funeral arrangements, or just a little thing for this and that. And then I think also what really, for me anyhow, I thought was really, really helpful with people was when they shared their happy memories of, like, things that they experienced with my mother. You know what I mean? Just when people would be like, your mom helped me, things I didn't even know about. Oh, your mom helped me with this, and I'm like just so grateful for her because she was a great person. Like your happy, loving memories were things that also made me personally feel good. It
Yeah.
it was sad at the same time because it was like, dang, like a real one is gone. But at the same time, it was just like, man, just knowing the impact that she had while she was here, and hearing the stories of people's experiences with her, was comforting also.
Hmm.
That was really comforting for me.
Definitely. Yeah. I
Yeah,
definitely feel that.
you
And
can.
that's those moments, that's what we need though, right? We just like
Yeah,
again we need somebody that, you know, just be present, no matter how small the task, or the gesture is in that moment, is big to us in those moments.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And hey, and sometimes there are going to be moments where like I just want to cry, like I just want to bawl out, and like you
Yeah.
know and just have that moment of release. And I don't want to hear don't cry. No, I need to cry.
Right.
This is me releasing the anxiety. This is me releasing the pressure of the moment and the pain. And so I think one of those things that you shouldn't say to somebody is don't cry, or you know be strong, because there's a season for everything. There's a season
Mhm.
to grieve, and there's a season for joy. There's a season. Oh, I thought you were about to say something. Sorry.
No, no, you good. No,
Okay,
I
yeah,
mean, I definitely agree with that.
yeah. And so I think crying is healthy. Not everybody goes through, like, I remember my brother, when we first got the news, he took like 5 showers in the space of an hour, like an hour or two, and that was just him dealing with it and going through the motions. Where I was just like a hot mess and crying. Um,
Mhm.
he dealt with it by taking a bunch of showers. Um, and
Yeah.
and then eventually the roles reversed, where he went through his, like, moments of weakness, and I was the stronger one and able to make the important phone calls and hit up whoever I need to hit up to um get her affairs in order. you know
Yeah.
and so and we kind of flip-flopped in terms of who was stronger at the moment, and who was going to be able to take a moment and just have a human experience of grief. And so, yeah, I think in this season, I think we need to just be more self-aware, of and just aware of the people around us who are experiencing um, some hard times in the months coming. Because although you may not have lost a family member, maybe in these holiday seasons, the holiday seasons still feel void and feel empty without the people who are
Yes.
important to you in your life. Because I know my first Christmas was it was oh,
Wreck.
ooh, first
A
Mother's
wreck.
Day, first Christmas, first birthday, all the firsts were the most difficult. Like, just thinking about it right now, I just got goosebumps because I just thought to myself, it was heavy. It was
And to kind of like give context about, my situation. So I
Yeah.
lost my mother in October, the end of October.
Oh
Then
wow.
is Thanksgiving the very next month. And then her birthday is the 2nd of December.
Mm,
And then you have Christmas right after that.
yeah.
And then like the New Year. And her and my dad were together for like 30 years.
Wow.
So then February is Valentine's Day. So it was like all of these, you know what I'm saying, like events and moments, right? Um, so when people are dealing with these kind of things, again, like you don't have to be Superman, Superwoman in these, moments. Again, some people just need you to be present.
Yeah.
And at a time, especially during the holidays, um, be respectful of people's time as well, right? The one thing that I didn't like was like, well, life goes on, you got to move on, and
Woo.
this said, I'm like, look, in this moment, I just want time, if in that moment, if I could have time to be still for me to grieve, I would have took that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like that was my desire. Like, look, God, I need you to, look, let me just focus in this moment. Let me get things together. Um, because in those moments where people grieve heavily, um, it's so many things that you have to do that are very time sensitive.
Right.
Right? Like you got to find out, eulogy, boom, church, where you gonna have it, boom, all different kind of things. And even with you were going through, COVID in that situation, right? Just trying to figure out, okay, like,
What
you know,
can we actually do?
what can we
Yeah.
do? Okay, once we figure out what we can do, okay, I need to let, these certain small group of people know. But then I don't want these people to feel like that they're not, included, or I don't like about, I don't like them if they're not invited, and all these different kind of things that are like very time sensitive. In those moments, those of you who want to help people grieve during the holidays, let's be respectful of people's times, especially when people grieve and have lost people in very traumatic and dramatic ways.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing people want to hear is like, "Oh, you still on that?" Like,
Right.
such and such many years. Like, you should move on with that. Like I said, the problem that I have about that is people, when they say that, they force their opinions on people in that moment about that experience, and they make that experience less than what it really is to people who are grieving in that moment. And
Yeah.
that's a big, big, big no-no. And I've even had like a leader in ministry to even say, like, you know, you're still talking about your mother, right? Like you still on that, like, you should get help
Wow.
because by this time you shouldn't be talking about it. And I was like, what do you
Whoa.
what are you talking about? Right? So even to those of you who are church leaders and ministry leaders and aspiring leaders in ministry, wherever you kind of find yourself, you may be put in situations where you have to help people process that grieving, and whatever they're grieving over. Look, you don't have to have all the answers, right? God has called everybody to be a resource, not the source.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And
that's good.
people, you know, take that to heart, right? I know you got a degree. I know you fabulous. I know you fit and fabulous, and you know, successful and all different kind of things. And I know you feel like you're the biggest person in the world. But in those moments where people are grieving, look, be small in those moments.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you are a resource in that moment. Whether that's you directing them to somebody else, whether that's you just being present, like we were talking about earlier. Like you don't have to be the source of all information and positivity in that moment.
Right.
Hey, just to be like,
What they call toxic positivity nowadays, right?
exactly.
Right.
It's okay in those moments to be like, you know what? This is too big for me. I just want to be present. I just want to be there with you. And I think that's what people really need around this, this holiday time.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something that, again, those emotions still happen, through me and in me, even though I'm a leader, in ministry too, you
Yeah.
know, but it's life. We all got to go through it. And, I believe if we keep God at the center of everything and the source of our joy, happiness, and navigating through grief, we'll be okay.
Absolutely. I agree. I think it's one of those things where we have to let people feel their feelings.
Yeah.
We have to let people just feel it and go through the motions of it. Some people might, you know, move faster than others, and that's okay. And some people may take longer than others, and that's perfectly okay. There's no cookie cutter way to grieve. Like I said earlier on in the conversation, it's personalized. It's really based on, you know, how much that person really even meant to you, and what that relationship looked like. And that's why it is personalized, and that's why we can never presume or assume that we know what another person is feeling. um, And so to make a statement such as, get over it already. It's been 4 years. It's been 5 years. It's been a year. Is it's just insensitive. It's futile, and it's actually just ridiculous at this point. You know what I mean? Let people feel, because there are people in our lives who have had heavy influences, heavy impacts on our lives. That when their presence is gone, it literally is. It shifts the dynamic of our worldview. I know that's how
Yes.
it felt like. I know that's how it felt like when my mother passed away. I felt like my whole worldview, my whole paradigm shifted. I felt like my presence on earth felt different,
Yeah.
because and I feel that that's even just, and not to go so deep and spiritual, but especially a mother who at one point our lives were connected to one another through an umbilical cord. You know what I mean? Whether it was cut or not, spiritually it's still there. You
Yeah.
know, and so when that person leaves us, it is it really makes you feel like a piece of you is missing. You know what I mean? And so you can never tell anyone how to navigate loss.
Hmm.
You can never
Definitely.
tell anyone how they should navigate their own experience with loss. So
Definitely. And
yeah.
even if you find yourself, you watching this and you find yourself, well, look, I can't really relate. I haven't lost a mother. Well, maybe you lost the only friend that you felt like that was there,
Yeah.
right? You still feel these emotions, whether you um, have ended a relationship, right? People can still grieve over, relationships being ended. Grief doesn't just happen. You don't feel grief for people who are not here anymore.
Right.
So wherever you find yourself, like at, you know, um, just know that you should be around people that care about your, well-being,
Okay. Take
that
care of
just
your mental
want
health.
exactly, that just want to see you be okay. And that can look a variety of ways. I had a friend who calls me the anniversary of my mother's passing every single year. He doesn't give me money. He doesn't, take me out to dinner or buy me stuff or do crazy, ridiculous things. He just like, hey, look, bro, I know, this is the day. How you feeling? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Full gesture can really help somebody in their healing process.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I heard one preacher say this, and whatever doesn't get healed gets handed down. And
Mhm.
being supportive of people who are hurting and want to heal, so they don't subconsciously put that on their children or people in their circle. Look, just be present.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. Um, One other just little story that like I saw recently. I was watching this show. What's it called? Married at First Sight. I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
one of the girls on the show, her dog died, right?
Hmm.
And she was grieving, and her husband, her new now husband, who also was a dog lover and had a dog, was trying to help her through the process. And people sent her flowers, for her dog, the loss of her dog. And years ago, I would have been one of those people that was like,
Yeah.
it's a dog, like, chill. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's a dog. Sending flowers, like, that's a bit extra. Um, until I got a dog. I got a dog. My baby Ruby, she's 1 years old, and I got her just a few months after my mom had passed away.
Yeah.
And when I heard this girl talking about the loss of her dog, and I started to just think of my baby, my fur baby,
Yeah.
no longer being here, and it gripped me like I had a knot in my throat, because
Yeah.
I because you do form emotional bonds with your pets, with your animal, right?
Yeah.
Because they become members of the family, and that alone, that's matter of fact, one of the reasons why I came up, or what inspired this topic tonight, and not just my own experience with grief, but just even the idea um of ridiculing or being insensitive to someone's experience because you don't understand it. You know what I mean? And so, that was a humbling moment for me to think that, a few years ago, I'd have been like, you're taking time off of work because you lost your cat. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and now being in the position of being a pet owner, a first time pet owner, and just being like, yeah, I get it.
yeah,
But I'm so glad that I never was one of those. I mean, although I thought it, I never voiced it. You know what I mean? Because what a douchebag I would have sounded like, just being
yeah,
so rude, and kind of heartless to
yeah,
someone who had lost, something that's important to them. So no loss is too big or too small. Grief is grief, and we ought to be sensitive to how people feel, because their feelings are real. Nevertheless, no matter what you know about it, no matter whether you've experienced it or not, it's real. And so we just ought to see, if we don't know how to support, always you can even ask, what can I do to support you?
yep.
And just be there for the people that you love in these hard times that are approaching us in these holiday seasons. So
Yeah.
that's all I have to say on the topic tonight. Is there anything else that you want to add, Jalen, before we go?
Nah, I think we kind of hit on a lot of stuff. Like I said, this is not a bash people who, have kind of said those insensitive things.
Yeah.
It's just a learning tool. This conversation is a learning tool, kind of help people out.
Yeah.
Because during this time, you might find yourself being that friend to kind of, support somebody in that moment during whatever grief they're experiencing. I would just say, just be present. If you don't know what to say, be a resource, not the source. And I commend you for um, expressing how you feel about it too. I think it's a great topic, and I think our time was well spent tonight.
Oh, well, I really enjoyed having you and having your perspective tonight. It's always good to have community, and tribe, and have people who are, um, who can relate to your struggles, because it makes you feel like you're less lonely than you might think you are. There's always somebody out here that's going through things that we may not even know. And so this is why I do the Lifeboat. It's really so that I can share life lessons, or the guests also who I have on here can share their life lessons, so that other people can glean from them, so that they don't have to make the same mistakes that we have made, or they can recognize that they're in the same situation that we were in, and what it looks like to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, and one more thing. After this conversation, if you go back, whoever's watching this, and you watch it, and you're like, well, you know what they kind of talked about doesn't really apply to my grief situation. Look, there's grief counselors out there, right, that help you along in processing your emotions.
Right.
Um, I'm man enough to say, hey, look, certain emotions during this grief process, I had to go higher, right? My family the same. A lot of times, especially African Americans, we kind of shy away from counseling. Look, if
Therapy.
go get it,
Yeah.
right? Because when you are struggling with mental health, though people love you and want you to be well, your mental health also affects people around you too.
Yeah.
And in order for you to be your best self, your mind got to be in the right spot, to right place.
100%. That's a great point, because you are 100% right. And I am there with you too. Like, definitely have to go higher. Definitely have to get some help there, because there were points where the stress and the anxiety of grief had me spazzing out on some, like, had me popping off. Period. Like, I just was like pressure, you know what I mean? And sometimes, unfortunately we take it out on those who are the closest to us because that's who's there, you know what I mean? But yeah, definitely at one point had to realize, like, listen, I need to get some help before I like run a bulldozer over everyone
Yeah.
in my way. You know what I mean? Because of the overwhelming feeling of just sadness, you know. And so yeah, I went and got the help I needed, and and thank God I did.
Yeah. You're a better person now, right?
Absolutely, I can say that I know how to manage it in a much healthier way, and
Yeah.
I found so many different outlets to use so that I didn't become destructive.
Hmm.
You know, so yeah, it's the resources out there. Therapy is always an amazing tool. I found it to be, and hey, sometimes even in that phase of grief, you know, when depression can sometimes take you and it just is overwhelming to the point that you can't manage it. Let me tell you something. Another thing that has been stigmatized, especially within the African diaspora, is just even the use of medication for
Yes.
your mental health. You know what I mean? And that is something that we don't like. Forget therapy. We not taking nothing to help with anxiety, with
Yeah.
depression, bipolar. Like, we're not doing none of it, right? Um, because of the stigma that comes with it. But you don't have to be crazy to take antidepressants. You don't have to be crazy to take anxiety medication. You don't have to be crazy to get the help you need so that you can cope and get through the time period, and do it in a healthy way while learning tools so that
Exactly.
you can manage it eventually on your own if you can,
Yep.
without the help of medication or whatever other um,
Yeah. Definitely. And I would say to that, even if you're like, well, you know what, I don't really want to do the whole counseling thing, just educate yourself about it. I think a lot of times, a lot of topics about, the climate of the world right now, we formulate opinions without being properly educated about it.
yeah,
So do your work, if it's something that you agree with, cool. If you don't, be educated about why you believe what you believe.
100%.
Yep.
That was dope. Well, thank you so much. I hope this video helps somebody. I hope this information that we gave you tonight, can just kind of help you to get through, navigate, whether you're grieving or you are around someone who is now grieving, or going through a hard time with grief. Um, I just if you really like what you heard tonight, I really hope that you send up some hearts, you share, even share it to someone who might be going through it right now, so that they just feel a little less lonely and a little
Yep.
more understood.
It takes 5 seconds, not even 5 seconds, to hit the share button.
Right. So share, 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 share.
Share.
Jalen, let us know tonight, to those who are watching, where they can follow you. You did mention that you are an author. Where can they get your book? Where can they follow you? And if you have anything that you is upcoming, any events, let us know about them so we can support you. How can we support you?
So if you want to follow me on Instagram, I am Jalen A Jet. Facebook, Jalen A Jet. My book, God Why Me, talks about grief, and how you can find God in those dark moments that you question. You can go on Amazon and find my book, God Why Me: How to Find God in the Dark Moments That You Question. Um, Other than that, I appreciate you inviting me on. I feel like this is a really good topic, and I'm just happy to, you know, share my 2 cents on today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to have you tonight. Thank you for your contribution. I'm going to send you backstage for just a short moment while I sign off here. So if you could just wait for me, I'll meet you in the green room.
I bet.
Okay, see you soon. So, guys, thank you so much for watching tonight. Thank you so much for all the shares, all the likes. And also, I just want to let you know that, there are so many resources, just to reiterate, I should say, there are so many resources out there for those who are grieving, for those who are going through a hard time, especially as the holiday season approaches. I just want to let you know that you're not alone, and that if you do need any resources, you please feel free to reach out to me in my inbox, and I will gladly provide some links to some good reading material, or even just some counselors in your area that can help you through this journey. But uh, again, thank you for watching, and we will be back again next Thursday with another Lifeboat Live. But until then, sail on.